Man, it is dark. We got people joining. What's good, everybody? How's it going? Welcome to the Phantom Universe live stream. All I got to do. Hello, my fellow life forms, and welcome to Phantom Universe. There we go. That's how we do the intro. How's it going, everybody? Long time no see. So, let's go and wait for some more people to join before I get started with the main topic of tonight. So go ahead and throw me some questions, guys, whatever you got going right now. What are you doing? My dog's running around, messing with my background. So, got a lot of stuff going on in the background, guys. I've been contacted by a few people, and apparently on the 10th, yes, on the 10th, I'm going to be doing a podcast with this guy. Actually, let me get his let me get it real quick. I'm pretty sure I remember it off the top of my head, but I just want to make sure. Something climbing mountain. Hold on. I'm going to be doing a podcast with this guy. He asked me to come on there. I still got to figure out how I'm going to do that because I have to get Skype because I don't have Skype. I found him he came to me on Instagram. Climbing Mount Stupid. That's what it's going to be on. Climbing Mount Stupid. Let me type it out for you. That's going to be the channel. Pretty sure he's going to do it on the YouTube channel. We're going to be doing a podcast with him, and it's going to be interesting. We're going to see how well that works out. But so if you guys want to go ahead and send me, I got 27 people in here right now. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the live stream. If you guys want to just go ahead and start sending me any questions, I'll answer them for you. Let's see if we can get 50 people in here before I continue with my main topic. I'm hoping it's getting up there pretty quickly, so we got people joining still. So what's been going on lately? Well, not a whole lot. I'm going back to work on Monday. Finally, I've been out of work for a month and a half now. About that much, maybe a month and a week or so. But let me tell you, man, I am ready to get out of this quarantine crap because this coronavirus thing is just, man, it's a major disruption. And here's the thing: we're gonna feel the effects of it come the fall. That's when we're going to feel the effects of what's been taking place so early on in the year. All right, let's come down here. Julio Vasquez, I don't even know how to say that. Have you covered the Emerald Tablets yet? I have not. I know what you're talking about, though. I'm pretty sure it's from Thoth, right? Thoth wrote the Emerald Tablets. In fact, I'm pretty sure I can read it off. I think I have something right here. Actually, I'm probably not going to be able to find it anytime soon is a thing. But there's some very interesting things with the Emerald Tablets. It really hints towards the passageways underneath the Sphinx and chambers and hallways inside the pyramid that you have to have a special key to get through. It's some really, really interesting stuff with the Emerald Tablets. Definitely crazy out there. Let's see, Jeff Tolbert. If the Great Pyramids are a warning to the end. Hold on. If the Great Pyramids are a warning to the end. If the Great Pyramids are a warning to the end that no one seems to survive, how did they know to warn us? Some survive. Not too sure what you're trying to say there, bro. I'm not gonna lie. Is the Great Pyramid a warning device? No, I wouldn't say the Great Pyramid is a warning device, if that's what you're trying to say. What I would say of what the Great Pyramid is a time capsule preserving knowledge humans once knew and forgot. And what better way to do that? For an example, if our civilization were to end, let's say we in 75 years, we know that the whole world is going to have another reset. Let's talk about that. Okay. How would we preserve knowledge? If we know that it's going to eventually be forgotten, languages change and, eventually, books disappear. You would want to try to preserve knowledge in a universal way, so you'd probably do it mathematically. We already do that with a lot of our stuff, like the Voyager probe being shot out into space. Not that disc, the gold disc on the Voyager probe. Not only does it have all these visuals on it, but also mathematical equations encoded into it. Well, then you would try to find a way to preserve that knowledge for as long as possible. And what better way to do so than to construct a monument and building that will literally stand the test of time, hence the Great Pyramid. That's what I think the Great Pyramid is for. Come back down here. Beard Monster. Damn, dude. Happy for you. Can't wait to get back to proper work myself. Yeah, dude. I know. I'm excited to get going again. Love your videos. They really get me thinking, and that's what I like about them. Yeah, bro. I'm glad to get you guys thinking, because we don't think enough, guys. That's the thing. We just take everything we hear as fact when it comes to history. We don't actually ponder and think about it. Is that actually how that was done? Why don't we challenge the status quo every now and then to see if it actually is as strong as we think it is? Well, from my own experience and doing my own research, no. It's actually really built on a lot of foundation of we don't actually know, so we're going to assume this and push it out there into the history books and teach everybody that this is the case, when actually the actual answer is way over there. Nobody thought to lift up that specific rock to look underneath it. Or if they did, how do we know that they let everybody know about it? That's the problem I find with that. And Egyptology, Egypt has a major problem of doing that. And here's the other thing you also have to consider when it comes to finding stuff in Egypt. Who was the first person since the Egyptians to actually be able to see all that stuff? Because here's the thing, guys. When the Egyptian Empire collapsed, I forget the exact date on when that officially happened. I'm not going to try to give you a number, but when the Egyptian Empire collapsed, Egypt became desolate and eventually got completely buried by the sand of the Sahara Desert. Completely buried. The Sphinx was up to its neck in sand when Napoleon arrived in Egypt. And he dug it out with a bunch of people, and they saw the stuff. Who knows what they found, Napoleon, all those kind of people, and then took for themselves. So who knows if anything was found back then and then hidden away and then forgotten? What if it's in somebody's basement and nobody knows about it? And it's that one device that cracks the code on how they actually dug and created all of what we find. I have no idea. I don't know. Very interesting. Let's come back down in here. We got 41 people. Oh, I'm coming in fast. Very good. Ted Hancock. Hello from Australia. What are your views on time travel? Well, going forward in time, we already believe it hasn't already been confirmed. I don't want to say confirmed, but hasn't it been established that it is possible to go forward in time just by traveling fast enough? I mean, if you go watch the movie Interstellar, I mean, they kind of go over the time dilation when it comes to traversing space and whatnot. So going forward in time, yeah, definitely. I 100% think that is a possibility given the laws of Einstein. But going back in time is the major league problem. If you go back in time, you would, and if it's just a single timeline, there's not a multiverse or anything else going on to where you can go back in time and break off into another branch. The butterfly effect of you going back in time and disrupting whatever it is there, even if you just stepped foot on the ground, could probably break space-time itself, because the fabric of space has been fractured at that point because you decided to go see the dinosaurs. Don't do that, okay? Until we actually know you're not going to break anything, don't ever go back in time. Let's come back down in here. Does all this lead back to inner Earth theory? Marcus Kochel. You talk about inner Earth theory, the inside of the Earth being hollow? No, I don't say so at all. I'm pretty sure we understand what's going on with the inside of the planet. I mean, in order for the planet to be hollow, if that's what you're referring to right now, it would mess up a lot of stuff. The same way the flat Earth theory messes up a lot of stuff, okay? First of all, you now have to explain how gravity works again, because if you don't have all of that mass at the center of the planet, what's keeping us on the surface? And then also you have the problem of we exist in space, and we are continuously being bombarded by the rays of the sun into the planet. And without the iron core, the very center of our planet, basically the massive magnet at the center of our planet, to create the massive magnetic field circling around the planet, we would be bombarded by really dangerous gamma rays and radiation consistently all the time, and life wouldn't be able to exist on this planet at all. The second we start to mess with our Earth model, a lot of everything begins to just fall apart, and nothing no longer makes sense anymore. So I don't think we need to go to trying to re-explain the rock we're living on. I do think we understand that relatively well, given how much we do know. Let's come back down in here. Gotten people coming in. I have a crackle. It's crackling. Oh, I have no idea what to do to fix the crack. How bad is the crackling if it's crackling? I don't know if it's crackling for just you or for everybody else. If anybody can tell me if it's crackling bad, I don't know exactly what to do with that. All right. Christian, I'm not going to Christian. Think out of the box. Tools the Egyptians used, sound and resonance. Do you think about it? Definitely. I mean, we already know the Egyptians were doing a whole bunch of crazy stuff with sound waves and that kind of stuff. Like, for example, the Great Pyramid itself. When you're I've never been inside the Great Pyramid, but you go watch videos or anybody that talks about being inside the Great Pyramid, the acoustics of the inside chambers, especially within the King's Chamber and the Grand Gallery, is through the roof. Like when you're sitting there talking, it's just reverberating so loud in there just from talking that you can barely understand what you're saying or what other people are saying. So there's definitely a lot of craziness going on with sound. How sound can be used as a tool? Well, think of this. I'm sure most people have seen the videos of people taking those two speakers, facing them at one another, and then playing a tone through it, and then taking a droplet of water and making that little droplet just hover in the sound waves as they hit each other. There's like a point where the sound waves, cross out each other, and it's like this section of like sound and vibration that can hold an object there. Well, that's just in its infancy. What if we somehow discovered to do that on an industrial scale? Imagine like a massive forklift with two speakers on either side of it, making this vibrational field right here, and they can pick up a rock. It doesn't matter how heavy the rock is. Nothing is like underneath the rock. It's just the vibration messing with the rock itself. I have no idea. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of craziness going on with sound. There are myths. I forget exactly where. I want to say it was in Thailand, but I'm not positive on that. Where people talked about how these monks were moving rocks by chanting. Okay, well, that's kind of weird. I need to go back and actually figure out where I saw that again. It's been a while since I read that. But they also had like these stone cones. It looks like a cone that, like, when you struck it, it would make like a tone. It'd be like, boo. It was really weird kind of stuff. So yeah, I definitely think there's something going on with sound. And another thing to look up. Let me find it real quick just to make sure I get it right for you guys. Type in, actually, let me just link it here. I'm going to share it with you guys. This is really crazy. So these guys took the frequency note that people were chanting inside the Great Pyramid, and they took one of those like plates and put the sand on it, and then played the frequency into the sand, and it made a shape that it's kind of like, whoa, okay, because this normally doesn't happen. Copy this and send it to you guys down here. Okay, highly recommend looking into that. That's kind of crazy right there. Watching how the sand turns into this ring and then this oval shape, and it's just like, whoa, I've never seen that before. Come back down in here. Bit of a leap, but what if time isn't linear? Like One Direction? I don't know. Is it really dark in here? Man, by the way, guys, I have a horrible setup when it comes to lighting. I apologize if it's super dark in here. I can try to turn some of this on, but that is super bright. See, I don't know what's better. I'm going to just put this dude over here to try to make that a little bit better. But yeah, I don't have the best setup to do this yet, guys, but hopefully that'll come here soon. Time being linear. It's hard to say. From our perspective, it's linear. I mean, it's only going that direction. We don't know. So until we figure that out, yes, from our perspective and our existence, time is a linear one direction thing, and we can't manipulate that yet. So until we figure out a way to do that, yes, I would say time is linear. Do I believe it could be other ways? I don't think so. Not necessarily. The only way I can imagine time being a linear thing is if there are multiple existences happening all at the same time. That way, 100 years ago is still happening right now. I don't know if that makes any sense. I guess you could say if the multiverse exists, where there are an infinite amount of possibilities happening right now, that means time is no longer linear. Time is all over the place at that point. The sun scene. Do you think there is a correlation between our history and spirituality that makes it hard for us to bridge the gap? With the whole spiritual stuff, it's hard to say. I have no idea. A lot of people have a lot of opinions when it comes to spiritual stuff, and it's just one of those things where we don't know. All right, so we got 49 people in here. Let me get started. So I'm going to tell you guys what I would do with all the information I had. One thing I would do is I would get on Overwatch and I would create this lobby called "This Information Will Shatter Your Reality." And I'll have like 5 people to come in and I'll tell them, yo, this is going to be a long conversation. All this is my opinion. If any of this turns out to be true, it's going to be crazy. And then I just kind of lay out everything for them. So I was thinking it'd be kind of cool to do my little presentation here for you guys. So this is what I'm going to need from you, because I have no idea how to share my screen. If I could share my screen, it would make it way easier to do this. But if you have a way to look up some pictures for me while I go through this, it's going to be a lot of what you've already seen on my TikTok page. But it all kind of brings everything into this nice little presentation for you guys. Okay, so we are going to start with the Carolina Bays. Okay, Carolina Bay. It's a whole bunch of, if you go to Google Images, what you need to do is, if you can, go to Google Images and type in Carolina Bay. And just look at these pictures. There's a whole bunch of aerial photography of the East Coast United States that is just littered in thousands of these massive oval-shaped depressions in the ground with raised sand rims. And we had no idea these things even existed until we had the ability to fly, because you can't tell they are there just by standing on the ground. And after we did this, after people found them, they began digging into the earth looking for any extraterrestrial rock, but would always come up empty-handed. And so it's always been a question is what the heck formed these things? People had no idea. And the current mainstream explanation for this is that during the Ice Age, northern United States and Canada had this massive glacier sitting on top of it called the Laurentide ice sheet. And the wind coming off of the glacier would hit these lakes and ponds and kind of bulge out and like push out the ground into these oval elliptical shapes. Well, that's the current explanation for it, but that really doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Like, how does wind make uniform, consistent shapes in the ground that overlap each other? Like, and you go look at pictures of them, they overlap one another often. It honestly looks like, something sprayed across the ground, like something hit the ground, which is why people thought it was extraterrestrial rock. Well, there's this one picture in Google Earth, or excuse me, on Google Images, to where you can see all of these lines all converging into one spot up where the Great Lakes, or excuse me, up where Saginaw Crater is. Yeah, where the Great Lakes are located in Michigan. But so what people do, like, I forget the name of the guy who actually figured this out, but he figured out that they're these oval shapes. So he figured out, their length and where they're all pointing to. And on a flat map, just drawing straight lines, there's no order to any of where they're pointing to at all. It's just kind of all over the place. But as soon as you accommodate for the Coriolis effect, the rotation of the planet, and travel time, all of those ovals all converge into one spot up where Saginaw Crater is located in Michigan. So one of the ideas being portrayed as what could have possibly formed these depressions, I would highly recommend looking up Antonio Zamora is the guy's name. Let me spell this for you. Antonio Zamora. I'm pretty sure that's how you spell his name. Well, I'll get into that anyway. This guy's done a remarkable job of like doing all the calculations to figure out that 13,000 years ago, the Earth passed through the tail of a disintegrating comet and got hit by multiple projectiles. And one of the objects hit where Michigan is, on top of the glacier that sat there during the Ice Age. And the impact ejected trillions of tons of ice. Well, I don't know about trillions. Let's say just billions of tons of ice up into the atmosphere in all directions at 2 miles per second. I'm pretty sure is the calculation he figured out. And the icebergs, we're talking objects the size of cars, houses, and baseball stadiums getting launched into the sky in all directions. And people would say, well, how does ice survive that kind of stuff? Well, I mean, you're talking about like a massive object, like a baseball to football stadium size object of ice being shot into space. Obviously, it's not going to be that exact same size from when it left, from when it came back in. But as the water boils from coming into the atmosphere, it creates like this not perfect, but this shield against the rest of the ice from the heat, almost kind of like boiling it into this massive shield. Like when you see like a pan, a really hot pan, and you throw like water down onto it, and the water literally hovers there. Kind of essentially the same thing. But anyway, the objects entering the atmosphere would hit the ground so violently, well, after coming back down, you can still see the scars today. And that's the idea of another possibility, another hypothesis on what could have formed these massive Carolina bays we find in the East Coast of the United States. And it wasn't just this impact either, because a comet is like a shotgun blast of material. And it was this impact, along with several others, that violently brought the Earth out of the last ice age. It didn't all happen instantly, though. If you go to Google Images now, if you can, and type in Younger Dryas, you hear me talk about it before, you'll see all these temperature graphs, okay? I recommend the graph with the red and blue line on it if you can find it, but it really doesn't matter, just as long as we can see where it says Younger Dryas. Anyway, so you can see when this happens. You can see around 15,000 years ago, everything's super cold, coming out of the ice age very slowly. And then around 13,000 years ago, we just get this massive spike in temperature globally that then drops back down into freezing and for 1,000 years, called the Younger Dryas. And it's called the Younger Dryas because that's when the flower Dryas became more prolific. What's the word? It became more abundant in that time period. And then around 11 and 12,000 years ago, I forget the exact date, I want to say 11,800 years ago. No, it's 12,800 years ago. No, I'm getting my dates mixed up. It came out again around between 11 and 12,000 years ago is when it finally came up again, but then it stayed warm, okay? And by the time we got hit to when it finally calmed down, about 3,000 years took place on the planet. And by the time all of that was said and done, all of the glacial ice from the Ice Age melted rapidly. And all that water had to go somewhere. So the ocean levels rose 400 feet to where they are now in our modern day. And 12,000 years ago when this happened, humans were around for that. So it was this transition and event that likely gave birth to the Noah's Ark story and the biblical flood. Now, there are some traces to suggest that maybe the biblical flood actually narrative dates around 4,000 years ago. But we know that the biblical flood borrows characteristics from previous flood myths, like the Epic of Gilgamesh. They borrow the same characters and some of the same characteristics. So, and we're talking a flooding of such destruction. I don't think enough people can actually understand and comprehend what we're talking about. I mean, imagine it like this. Imagine a 1,000-foot wave, several miles across, tearing across your neighborhood at 60 to, at some points, 100 miles an hour, depending how steep the ground is. Everything would be gone in a matter of a few hours. And how this happened was, as the glacial ice melted, the water would pool into these massive lakes on top of the ice that still existed, until as it melted, it could no longer hold back the weight of all that water and break, releasing the most cataclysmic floods down the landscape you could ever possibly imagine, forming a lot of what we find in Washington State. If you can look it up on Google Images, look up Potholes Cataract. Potholes, just like you spell it, cataract, Cataract. It's this massive formation in Washington State, 1.5 miles wide by 2 miles long, and at some points 800 to at some points 1,000 feet deep. Just where a massive body of water literally tore the bedrock from the earth out from underneath it. The size of the river it would take to do that would shake the very ground underneath your feet. And if anything that existed in that area beforehand would have been completely erased. The ground literally disappeared from underneath them after the water came through, obviously. Then you also have the ripples we find in Camas Prairie. Search Camas Prairie ripples, Camas, prairie, like the hills of a prairie, ripples like the ripples in the sand. Camas Prairie ripples. These, when you're on a beach or like a river, the tallest ripple and the sediment on the bottom, you would see it probably be about 1 inch high, give or take, depending how fast the water's moving. The ripples we find in Camas Prairie are 50 feet high, hundreds of feet in length and span for hundreds of miles. The only other place we see ripple sediment deposits like this is on the bottom of the ocean. And these are only 2 land formations of thousands all across the planet, which is the permanent scarring on the surface of the planet from that catastrophic flooding event. Now, let's change gears a little bit. I would ask people, a lot of people, how many sides does the Great Pyramid of Giza have? No, let's talk about it. Let me do this first, okay? We're going to talk about the myth part of this. What are you doing? Sorry, my dog's doing something. Let's imagine a cataclysmic event happened to us. Let's say that kind of cataclysmic event happened to us. And let's imagine that you survived the initial devastation and you're surviving. Would you stop messing with my background? My dog is just all over the place. Let's imagine you survived the initial devastation and you're surviving. With a group of people, things are going great. You're not living like you are today. There's no more electricity. Civilization has ended, and you're basically living like another primitive human being again. Okay? Time goes by, and you have children, if you don't. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere one day, a military plane screeches across the sky from horizon to horizon. And sorry, I got distracted by a comment. So a plane just randomly out of nowhere screeches across the sky from horizon to horizon. And you had no idea anyone was still flying them. And now here you are trying to explain to your terrified children now who have never seen a plane of what a plane is. You're trying to explain it to them. You explain what it's made of, its function, its history, and let's say you draw a picture for them to the best of your ability, because all your children would ever see is this mysterious small winged thing roaring across the sky randomly every now and then. Time goes by, you would eventually die. More time goes by and the plane stops flying overhead. And now here are your children and your grandchildren explaining to their children of what a plane is to their best memory from what you told them. And thankfully, they have your drawing because now there's no visual in the sky. Well, this story of a plane that you've constructed and put an image to now gets passed down by this, but from generation to generation, by this ever technologically devolving and understanding group of people for 12,000 years. And by the end of those 12,000 years, the picture you had drawn is long gone. No one knows where that is. Your image and name have been changed, more than likely deified, and the plane flying overhead has become a fire-breathing dragon. Your original description of a plane has been completely warped into this mythological story that doesn't make any sense anymore because it is just the frantic attempt to try to remember the previous story. And this would explain the confusion, contradiction, and mysticism behind all of these ancient myths and stories our species have been passing down for thousands upon thousands of years. Because these stories are themselves just the frantic attempt to try to remember the previous story. And we also must consider the corruption of our species, always looking for a way to manipulate and control the people. And what better way to do so than to warp and suppress the truth? So, instead of arguing who has the correct story, like we've been doing for thousands of years, killing one another over and getting nowhere, we should back up and view all of these ancient myths and stories at the same time, to where we can now find and make the connections in which they all share. For an example, the biblical flood, the Noah's Ark story. Well, not only is this a cataclysmic flood myth, but so is the story of Atlantis. And there are hundreds, if not thousands at one point, of these cataclysmic world-destroying flood myths all across the planet from every continent and culture. And these stories are the PTSD memory of that horrific event 12,000 years ago when the glaciers melted, peeking its way out from behind the shadows of myth. So now let's come to the Great Pyramid. And most people, I hope most people watching now understand or know the answer to this question. I ask people, a lot of people, how many structural surface sides, visible faces, does the Great Pyramid of Giza have? And I tell them, if you're viewing it like a satellite from above, looking down onto it perfectly, how many sides of the pyramid do you see? Most people say 4, and some other people say 5. But the answer is 8. And to get an actual understanding, if you didn't know that, I can only recommend to look at it. Type in Great Pyramid of Giza 8 sides on Google Images and just look at it. But if you were to imagine a 4-sided pyramid, at the center of each side from top to bottom is another corner. that concaves inwards towards the center of the structure, dividing that big triangle on one side into two, kind of like that. Times 4 equals 8, making the Great Pyramid an 8-sided pyramid. 8 visible. It's actually, it's not really visible. Okay, that's why we had no idea for the longest time. It wasn't, I'm pretty sure it was World War II when they were flying over it during the spring solstice, is when the sun came up over the horizon just perfect, where it cast that shadow inward to where you could tell there was an actual corner there. Until then, we had no idea, because you can't tell it's there just by standing on the ground. But this is why it's crazy. This is why it's absolutely insane that this structure is built this way. Let's imagine that you are going to build a 4-sided pyramid that size, like the one sitting right next to it, the Khafre pyramid, consisting of 2.3 million individual multi-ton stone blocks, some of them up to the size of a minivan, weighing as much as a semi-truck. The internal stone is carved from granite, quarried from 500 miles away in Aswan, and is cut so perfectly to one another that you can't fit a piece of paper in between the stone as they butt up to one another. Most of the stone we see, though, is limestone. It's about the size of like a really big refrigerator. But anyway, if you were to cut one of those internal blocks wrong, or just set it down wrong by a degree, each block after that, above it or around it, would then be wrong and gradually worsen in error as construction continued, causing those internal rooms and chambers to become warped, possibly, if bad enough, making the whole pyramid bulge, lean, or spiral before you would ever get to the top and not come to a perfect point with all of its corners. Put 8 sides on your pyramid, like the Great Pyramid, and you complicate the geometry of the structure alone so drastically mathematically that you are 8 times more likely to get that precision and symmetry wrong, to have all those corners all come to that peak at the top. And the mainstream historical narrative has been, since the 1800s, is that the Egyptians built these structures using copper chisels and stone hammers with sleds, because the wheel had not been introduced to Egypt yet. And they were able to do it from start to finish in a time span of 20 years. Well, problem is, in order to complete that structure in 20 years from start to finish, you have to continuously place a perfectly cut stone perfectly every 5 minutes, 24 hours a day, nonstop for 20 years. That's how big 2.3 million is. Our little ape minds cannot comprehend that number. And that level of efficiency, perfection, and stamina is not achievable with our modern technology today. I don't believe it. I don't believe that we could possibly do that. The conveyor belt system of stone alone to move the stone would be on an industrial scale unprecedented in history. Then you add the fact that not only are they building the Great Pyramid, but they are building all of the main pyramids that you know about. Khafre Pyramid, the Djoser Pyramid, the little tiny, man, I always forget the name of the little tiny one, the Bent Pyramid, the Red Pyramid. All these pyramids are all being built within the same 100 years, in this time frame of 100 years. Whoever built these structures, if the Egyptians were able to complete that, then everything we understand about their culture is wrong, because that should not be achievable for for the technology we know they had, because we today cannot do that. And the idea of throwing enough slaves at it will solve the problem? No. That's lazy thinking at that point. That's just because you've heard before that slaves built the pyramid, when we have no proof at all that slaves built the pyramid. And the academics today don't believe slaves built the pyramids. But I don't believe that the Old Kingdom Egyptians built the pyramids. Now, here's the thing, though, guys. That area is called Egypt. So whoever built the pyramids were Egyptian. Okay, not saying the Egyptians didn't build the pyramids. No, I'm just saying those Egyptians that we say built the pyramids didn't build the pyramids. Okay, that's what I'm saying. But we also don't have to go to aliens to explain this phenomenon. A lot of people are like, oh, he's talking about aliens. And you get these people that just don't know how to think for themselves. They go, oh, well, he's clearly talking about aliens. No. I've only ever said aliens once. in all of my videos, and I wanted to see if you guys know which one it is. But anyway, now we don't got to go to aliens to explain this phenomena. There is a much simpler explanation that you're called crazy for just considering sometimes, especially in the academic world. Okay, there have been many ancient myths and legends of a time before, said to have existed in extreme ancient antiquity. Myths of civilizations that were destroyed and erased by cataclysms of fire, flood, and a whole bunch of other really bad stuff. And one of those stories is the story of Atlantis. And historians say that Plato, the Greek philosopher whom we get the story of Atlantis from, just made it up as a metaphor for his time, which is why it's renowned as myth and not taken seriously in the academic world, resulting in it being portrayed as this joke in our pop culture. But according to Plato, if we read what he wrote from his Critias and Timaeus writings, he gives the sinking date for the city of Atlantis 9,000 years prior to the Greek philosopher Solon's travels to Egypt. And we know when Solon existed because he was Plato's great-great-great-grandfather and a lawmaker. He lived between 600 and 500 BC, around that time period. So if we subtract back in time 9,000 years from when Solon lived, that puts us between 11 and 12,000 years ago. I think it's 11,800 years ago is the exact date, but I'm not positive on that at the top of my head. Which is directly in the middle of that massive cataclysmic shift in climate, melting the glaciers from the Ice Age and raising ocean levels globally 400 feet. So if Plato made up the story of Atlantis, it would have to be a coincidence that he gives the exact event and date for the world-ending flood that changed everything. And then on top of all this, coming back to the Great Pyramid real quick, whoever built the Great Pyramid encoded into it mathematical equations that people back then should not have known. For an example, the dimensions and rotation of our planet. Take the perimeter around the Great Pyramid and multiply it by 43,200, and you find the circumference of the equator around our planet. Take the height of the Great Pyramid and multiply by that same number, and you find the polar radius of the planet, giving you a three-dimensional image of our Earth. And 43,200 is not a random number. This is actually a very common number in a lot of ancient myths if you actually dive into it. But there are 43,200 seconds in 24 hours. And we know for as far back as we can see in history, we're talking like Mesopotamia, Sumerian stuff, they use 60. They use the measurement of time of 60 throughout all their stuff, and 12 was also in there. But also, as our planet spins, it has a tilt, which also rotates like this wobble called the precession of the equinox, which makes 1 degree of precession every 72 years on the horizon. It's very subtle. You can't tell just by the naked eye. And 43,200 is a multiple of the number 72. I know it's a long, but long story short, not only is the Great Pyramid a scale model of the planet on a scale of 1 to 43,200, but that number is defined by a key motion of the planet itself. And the Egyptians thought the world was flat. So that's a major problem. But then on top of all of that, if you then go look up the coordinates to the Great Pyramid of Giza, if you type in Great Pyramid of Giza coordinates, you'll find that the northern coordinates are 29.9792. Okay? You then go look up the speed of light. And the first 6 digits in the speed of light in a vacuum are I'm going to get this number wrong. It's 299792458. What's that? 229,700,000. I always can't put the million wording in there when I say it. But the first 6 digits for the speed of light in a vacuum are 299792. The first 6 digits of the coordinates of the Great Pyramid of Giza are 299792. People say it's a coincidence. It's a coincidence. It's all just coincidence. Okay, well, if you then were to go to Google Images and look up connecting ancient sites and just look at a few of these diagrams, imagine you had the ability to fly and you could fly around the planet at will. Well, starting at the pyramids in Giza, going across the Sahara Desert, through the Atlantic Ocean, across Southern America, through the Pacific Ocean to Easter Island on the most remote opposite side of the planet, all the way back to the pyramids, are 21 super ancient sites all in this same line with remarkable precision to one another, circling around the planet. And whoever was building the massive megalithic stonework, like what we find in Egypt, South America, and even on Easter Island, had the capability to quarry, move, and lift unbelievable large masses of rock above your head and cut and shape the block with such a level of precision you can't fit a piece of paper or sometimes a razor blade in between the stone. Many of these sites have remarkable astronomical alignments with the stars in the sky, along with sharing identical architecture, stone cutting, and locking techniques, making many of these walls earthquake-proof, which is why they have lasted as long as they have. It's all a coincidence. It's all just coincidence. But here's the thing. If we imagine, let's go back to the same analogy I used earlier of like the cataclysmic flood happening to us. Okay, imagine this. Horrendous, massive floods tearing across the landscape, destroying everything the water touched. Never-ending torrential rain and hurricane winds on a scale you couldn't possibly imagine, with massive earthquake and volcanic activity, with the ocean levels rising 400 feet over a period of time. Okay, well, that would really freaking suck, obviously. But that would put everything on a coastline and on an island under hundreds of feet of water. So let's imagine that a broken New York, Tokyo, parts of Florida, lots of Australia, goes under hundreds of feet of water and then just sits there for 12,000 years. And to give you some perspective, the Titanic has been underwater for over 100 years now. And at its current rate of decay that they've calculated so far, give it 500 years. No, let's just say 1,000 more years for enough time. And you would no longer recognize there was ever a steel boat even there. It's just disintegrating into this lump, and the ocean floor is continuously rising, so it would eventually just be completely buried by the sediment, vanishing it from the planet completely. Think of it like a building. It's literally a steel building underwater. So again, if New York and everything else on every coastline and island goes under that amount of water and for that amount of time, we could probably agree at that point that most, if not everything, would either be completely gone or unrecognizable to whoever would exist later if they searched the oceans to begin with. And keep in mind, we've only looked at 8% of our own. The only thing any survivors later on would still see from us would be whatever was still on land. And the only material, if it wasn't destroyed completely, that maybe might retain a glimpse of what it was before through the thousands upon thousands of years of erosion it's about to go through, would be whatever we carved from stone, like Mount Rushmore, the ruins of Hoover Dam, the Great Wall of China, the Great Pyramids. And all we have from our ancient past is what they carved from stone. And they are the greatest structures this planet has ever seen and has never seen again since. Our history books teach us that humans, Homo sapiens, people basically just like you and I, have been existing for at least 200,000 years. There's evidence of us being older, like 350,000 years. Let's just stick with 200,000 years for now, okay? Let's imagine those 200,000 years, okay? The oldest written history we have, the fragments of these clay tablets, we date to around 6,000 and 7,000 years ago. Anything prior to that writing, we have no official record on what was going on. So we can only really guess by the artifacts that we find, supposedly. So the current historical model has been that prior to 11,000 years ago, humans were just small hunter-gathering tribes still living in caves, hunting mammoths into extinction with stone spears, and farming along a civilization had not been started yet. Well, the problem is that that written history that we do have is not even 99%, it's like not even 98%. Let's just say 99%. I think it's like, I don't know the exact percentage, but the amount of history we do not know about on the other side of 11,000 years ago for people to say that for hundreds of thousands of years, people were just doing nothing. There were these stupid cavemen with nothing better to do than bang rocks together. No, I don't believe that at all. I would say that our human species is far older than we originally thought. And at one point during the Ice Age, we're a globally advanced technological civilization. Who knows what kind of technology? I have no idea. And it wasn't society starting 9 to 10,000 years ago, but civilization restarting from a cataclysmic event so devastating, it almost made our species go extinct, like it did the mammoth. And we are the descendants of the survivors. That's how I would explain all that. But now let's go a little bit crazy, okay? We're gonna step out of the box now. Big time step out of the box. And then once I'm done with these few points, we're gonna come back down here into the comment section, okay? But let's step out of the box. This is all just my own personal way of thinking to try if this turns out to be correct. Not saying it is, guys, okay? This is my own trying to piece all this together. If any of that's correct, consider this. Given the example of the biblical flood, we have to reconsider many of these ancient stories now because they're no longer made up fiction anymore like many claim they are, and I once did. And I had to change my mind because come to find out, we can scientifically prove that that flooding event did happen when the glaciers melted. Well, the next big obvious thing in many of these myths, if not all of them, is a god of some kind, or a deity or some kind of deities. Well, whether or not these stories are speaking of a real supernatural being, I have no idea, and I don't claim they are. But since many of the figures from these stories share a lot of the same characteristics with one another, could we not possibly say that they might be speaking of someone? And specifically, in the ancient Sumerian cuneiform tablets that the Bible actually borrows from their flood myth, their Epic of Gilgamesh, they speak of how when the flood came that destroyed everything, the gods left the planet it was so devastating, and argued amongst themselves why they allowed it to happen. Well, if there was an advanced civilization prior to this cataclysm, and they saw this massive cataclysmic event getting ready to happen, could we not translate this as survivors escaping? So let's just stick with that. Let's just stick with that thought experiment right now. Survivors escape the planet from the cataclysm and go live somewhere else in the solar system or, say, universe for 3,000 years Earth time. They would eventually gain the capability of coming back to the planet, and they would find nothing but a barren wasteland of what was before and the descendants of the survivors, who are Stone Age people now, with no memory of what was before, only these myths that have been passed down for thousands of years by their ancestors. These primitive people have also adopted the ruins of the previous civilization and have built around and on top of these scars, leaving their fingerprints on them, like the pyramids in Egypt. So if we imagine an ancient group of people standing there in Egypt, as a ball of light emerges from the sky and two people walk out and start talking with these ancient people, they would absolutely believe that those were some of the gods from their myths or some kind of angel. And the word angel translates from Hebrew as messenger. And where do angels come from but the heavens? And heaven has been depicted as up by thousands of cultures for thousands of years in their art and writing, and up is also the direction of space. So, by definition, angels are extraterrestrials. And if this group of people who fled the planet long ago have been separated from our genetic code for 12,000 years up until present day, while traversing space and time, they would absolutely start to show genetic differences from us. I would even say alien. Because that's one of the other things. And that's how I think aliens would make sense. Because the problem with like an actual extraterrestrial, if we're talking like an alien that evolved on another planet in another solar system somewhere super freaking far away from us, it should look nothing like anything here on Earth. It shouldn't be humanoid if it's an actual extraterrestrial coming from somewhere else. No. The reason why an alien would be humanoid is because they are us. Now, last point. Let's imagine that an object a half a mile wide entered our atmosphere at 44,000 miles per hour. Tomorrow, worst case scenario, that would suck. The very surface of the planet would change again. And our entire empire would fall again. And it's not going to be us living in these massive, populated, comfortable places who would survive for very long in a geological sense of time. We would die off relatively quickly. The people to possibly survive and adapt to this new environment to come afterwards would be the hunter-gathering tribes that exist with us today, like in the Amazon. They already know how to survive with nothing. They've been doing it for thousands of years. They too would also experience this cataclysmic event and go to talk about it in their myths. And let's just say out of nowhere one day, like let's say months later, maybe even years later, a survivor from one of those technological cities shows up in camp one day. And if these primitive people didn't kill them and eat them to begin them, kill them and eat them to begin with, because they're probably starving, they might try to go on to live with this person. And they wouldn't look like anyone else. And no one would understand a word this person was saying. And let's say they did like learn a little bit of their language though, and tried to explain what it was that where they came from. And like they drew pictures in the sand. The problem is that these primitive people wouldn't be able to comprehend what they were even being told. They don't know what a city is, a car, a plane, a light bulb, medicine. Anything this person told them would sound like a mystical story from the beginning. And it would be their descendants that would go on to speak of a time before, a time when the gods walked the earth, healing the sick, creating remarkable buildings, having the ability to fly, and even go to the moon. And in time, even we would become myth. And if a fraction of any of that is true, I'm not saying any of it is, but if a fraction of any of that is true, and there is so much more, our entire model of history and who we are as a species will completely change. For we will no longer be the center point, the peak of technology, or the giants we claim to be. For there is something far greater over this horizon, and it will shatter your reality. And that's my spiel. I'm going to come down here into the comments now, see what you guys are talking about. I've got a whole bunch going on down here. Let's see. Beard Monster. Randall Carlson's work. Oh, dude, Randall Carlson. If you guys don't know who Randall Carlson is, you got to get on that. Okay, he's got a YouTube. I highly recommend watching his podcast, Cosmographia, with a K. Cosmographia. I'll type it for you. Cosmographia. Okay, his podcast is. I eat that stuff alive. Come down in here. We take multiple countries to make, if not, you guys talking about the Great Pyramid. Yeah, the thing is, like with building the Great Pyramid, it would take a global effort to do that, guys. Not one country can build that structure that way. I don't believe that at all. And the Great Pyramid is literally the most perfect structure on the planet. It's off by 1/60th of a degree from true north. And I watched this the other day. I forget the name of the freaking YouTube channel I watched this from. But the Great Pyramid isn't a perfect square either, okay? Toward the wall facing the north is a little bit smaller than the wall facing the south. And so you would get a crossing point at some point between the east and west facing walls, the way they would point out. And this guy was doing this calculation on how that is what is the word? Man, I can't remember the word right now. It's like it's where like the lines converge at the North Pole. Man, I don't remember the word. It starts with an M. I'm being stupid, but it's possible that the Great Pyramid's walls are pointing towards the North Pole as well, which is whoa, that's pretty crazy. It's like a trapezoid. It's not a perfect square, and it all points to the North Pole. Let's come back down here. Jeff Tolbert, favorite historical fiction movie? Talking about movie? You said move. I'm pretty sure you meant movie. Historical fiction movie. I can't think of one on the top of my head right now, bro. It's been a while since I've actually watched some videos. Tell you what, movies I have been watching lately are like Deep Impact, Armageddon. Like anything like with an extraterrestrial impact, like something hitting the Earth, I love that kind of stuff. Like the episode in Armageddon when that meteor hits Paris and like it just explodes. Oh my gosh. I was like, oh, this is so beautiful. This is so pretty. Call me crazy. I hated the movie, but 2012, I think is what it was, when Yellowstone went off. That was a pretty decent scene, other than the fact that that movie was just complete crap. I hated the actual everything else about that movie, but the destruction, watching everything tear apart. Oh, dude, I love that stuff so much. I'm like, can't get enough of it. It's like, it's amazing. Roger B, thank you, sir. Thank you. What if aliens build pyramids? I don't know. You're talking about the pyramids in Egypt? I don't think we have to go to aliens to explain really anything we see on Earth. I think what would make more logical sense to me is that there have been previous civilizations of technological achievement that we are unaware of today that were completely wiped away, and all we have are these fragmented remains of their existence that we have been living on top of for thousands of years, which is why you can't find any traces of them, because somebody went through and cleaned house a long time ago, and you just don't know about it. Come back down in here. Fuck y'all. Love your content, man. We spoke some time ago in an Overwatch after it took. Oh, nice, bro. Welcome back. Hemp Master Flash, FYI, not a flat earther, but what if Earth is flat, like the Egyptians believed, and we truly are time traveling when we move across Earth, given perspective? I don't know, bro. I don't know. When like I said earlier, when you change the shape of the planet, it really screws up everything we understand about everything when it comes to existence and how the universe works. If the Earth becomes a disk, the laws of physics breaks apart immediately. And it just doesn't work. So I don't think we need to go to the Earth being flat. Tyler Hardister, I think that's it. Tyler Hardister. Thoughts on ayahuasca? Well, ayahuasca is a super freaking ancient drink where people would take it and trip their balls off. Okay. Now, I got to do a disclaimer because I did a bad job of doing this on TikTok. I am not supporting the use of any drugs at all. All right. Now we have that over with. I've never done ayahuasca. I can't say I will never do ayahuasca, but I don't know. It's really complicated with that because it's like our species has been doing this thing for a really long time. And there are things to suggest like that it has influenced a lot of these religions. For an example, I'm not saying this is true, but this is a cool thing to think about. The story of Moses coming out of Egypt, right? Okay, in the Bible. Okay, beforehand, he saw the burning bush, and he spoke to God through this burning bush. Well, there's some guys to suggest, and Joe Rogan has actually gone over this a few times, that the burning bush is a metaphor for him smoking the acacia bush, which is saturated in DMT. That would be really interesting. What if there is a connection between these things in our ancient past that we just don't know? And the fact that the thing is, like when it comes to drugs and whatnot, is I don't do drugs, but our species have been doing psychedelics for thousands upon thousands of years. And we know through a lot of studies that there are benefits to, say, mushrooms. It's shown that mushrooms actually have a positive benefit on people's psyches. People who are superly depressed, you put them on mushrooms, they come out going, dude, that was great. Like, I feel so much better now. And we can measure that. Like, this works. And there's a book called The Spirit, DMT, The Spirit Molecule from Strassman. I forget his first name. Something Strassman, but DMT, The Spirit Molecule. Highly recommend listening to that Audible or reading the book if you're into reading it, where it was a government-approved experiment with dimethyltryptamine on a bunch of patients. And this doctor, went into the experiment as a super doctor mind kind of guy of this is just they're just hallucinating, these people being on this drug. But there were some cases where people stopped coming to the experiment because he kept telling them it was a hallucination. They were like, no. You can't tell me that wasn't real. That was more real. I think one of the quotes, don't quote me on this, but one of the, if my mind, it's been a while since I read the book. One of the people was like, that felt more real than this existence. Don't quote me on that. I don't know if that's from that book. I might have heard that somewhere else. And then there's other cases where apparently people were coming back with the same type of story, like where they two different people went to the same place and came back with the same story. And that's just kind of like, if it's a hallucination, if it's just nothing and just your brain's chemistry making up random stuff, how is it possible that these two people have the same experience? And coming out of the experiment, Strassman was just really, he just didn't know what to think anymore when it came to this. And I don't know exactly what happened to him after the book and all that kind of stuff, but there's some weird stuff going on with DMT, and ayahuasca is the ancient way of taking it. In this experiment, they were injecting high amounts of dimethyltryptamine into the people, but ayahuasca is a drink, and apparently it's a horrible tasting substance, though. Go listen to Graham Hancock talk about it. It tastes like crap. You are going to vomit and you're going to crap your pants out. Those are the two things he says is going to happen if you take ayahuasca. And the other thing is, like, when it comes to any psychedelic like that, I can only imagine the mental toll it could have on a human being. When your existence, it's called an ego death. It's where everything about you begins to literally disappear from your mind. You no longer know your name. You no longer know anything about this existence. You just become consciousness. And then you pass through that, like through something. I don't know what, I can't remember what they call it. You pass through this light or this thing, and then you go to a place that you can't even explain with the human English language or any language on the planet, because it's so out of this world and bizarre that you can't explain it when you come back. And you don't remember a lot of it when you come back, apparently, too. You're only allowed to remember some of it, as it would be as it seems. But yeah, that's my opinion on ayahuasca. Let's come back down in here. Justin Hughes, what do you think of the day after tomorrow? That's the one with like the big snowstorm, right? That like completely like engulfs. It's been a long, I have seen that movie once or twice, but it has been a long time since I saw that movie. So I can't really say much about that one other than I remember being like really heavily pushed towards the global warming aspect of everything. Like, oh, the humans do it because it's always the humans' fault. If anything's going on the planet, it's always our fault. Have you noticed that? I don't know. But medias and movies are really, really go into everything being our fault when maybe it's not our fault. I'm not saying it isn't, but what if it's not our fault? It's just the natural courses this planet's taking, and we're just here for the ride. Because that kind of seems the way it's been for a really long time. Everything that's been existing on this surface of this planet has been around for the ride. That's just how it works. Let's come back down in here. Okay. What are your opinion on ancient Greeks and their gods? Okay, well, whether they're like actual beings, don't think so. I think a lot of what we get in Greek mythology is a metaphor for a memory of super long ago. That was a stupid way to phrase that. It's an ancient memory trying to be preserved as accurately as possible through a story. And here's an example. There's ideas out there that the story of Phaeton, okay, and if you don't know who Phaeton is, I'll type it for you. Phaeton. I think this is how you spell it. Let me make sure real quick before I confirm this, guys. Phaeton Sun Chariot. Yes, I did get it right. Look at that. All right, Phaeton Sun Chariot. Okay, it's this Greek story, and I'm not going to get it completely right, but I'm going to summarize it for you guys. There's been many different ways that this story has been told throughout time. But how the story goes is Phaeton wins this chariot race, and his father is the god Apollo, who has the chariot that brings the sun across the sky. And this guy doesn't believe that he is the son of Apollo. So Phaeton goes to Apollo to convince this guy that he is, in fact, the god's son. He gets there. Apollo's like, dude, this is great. And Phaeton asks for a wish. And the god grants, or no, the god will grant him a wish because it's impressive that he got to the god's palace to begin with. And Phaeton wants to ride the sun chariot across the sky to prove to this dude that he is, in fact, the god's son. And Apollo's like, dude, I can't let you do that. And I can barely do that. I mean, not even Zeus can control that chariot. And Phaeton has, is really got to stick up his butt about it, and he really wants to do that. And Apollo, being a god, has to be truthful to all of his promises and all of the stuff he says he's going to do. So he has to let him do it, of course. So Phaeton gets in this chariot, and Apollo warns him, of like the constellations to be wary about, but also to never let go of the reins and always maintain control of the horses, because if he were to lose control, it would be devastating for the planet. So Phaeton takes off, and it's the early morning sun, and everything's going super easy. And Phaeton's like, yeah, this is great. And then they get to like the scorpion, and it scares the horses, and Phaeton's like trying to maintain control of the horses, but it gets so unbearable, and the horses dip back down to the planet, super close to the planet, completely scorching the earth and burning it. And then Phaeton pulls the reins of the horse, and he leaps up past the moon, way far away, and the whole planet then freezes. And Zeus, seeing the destruction Phaeton was causing, threw a thunderbolt at him, striking him to where he died and burst into flames down to the planet and hit the ground and eventually died. And it caused devastation on the planet again. And his sisters turned into trees or something. I'm pretty sure there was one story I read about it where even the weeping angels caused flooding, but I'm not positive about that one. But the idea of the story of Phaeton is the distant memory in the past from a comet impact on the planet. The burning and scorching of Phaeton coming close to the planet is the heat from objects entering the atmosphere, setting fire to 10% of the Earth's biomaterial. The Phaeton, leaving the atmosphere, causing the Earth to freeze, is the massive winter caused by the Younger Dryas, that we call the massive freezing of the Younger Dryas. And then the final destruction of Phaeton is another object hitting us, and his hair bursting into flames as he came through the sky. It really hints towards a cosmic impact. And you go and look at all of these myths all across the planet, guys. It's in the Hindu texts, it's in the Bhagavad Gita, it's in the Bible itself within Revelations, talking about burning mountains coming out of the sky. Objects hit us all the time. And our species has experienced some really, really big ones. Let me give you the most recent one that gave us all a wake-up call. Okay? Pretty sure it was 2013. Yeah, 2013. I forget where in Russia. I can't pronounce it. Russia got hit by a meteor. Okay, it was about the size of a really big house, entering the atmosphere at 40 to 44,000 miles per hour. Okay, and it never hit the ground. It blew up in the atmosphere. There's this big explosion in the sky. You can see all sorts of dash cam video of people driving, and also this streak of light that is several times brighter than the sun comes in and just comes into the atmosphere. And people seeing the big flash of light in the sky, they're like, whoa, what was that? So they walk up to the windows to look out and see what that was. And then the shockwave hits the ground, blasting glass into all these people's faces. Even rooftops caved in, shattered people's eardrums. The energy was equivalent to 20 Hiroshima nuclear bombs going off at the same time in the atmosphere. Just boom, 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 as this thing entered the atmosphere. The problem is, and this is what Randall Carlson talks about when it comes to this thing, if that object was just moving a little bit faster, or coming in at a little bit steeper angle, or was just a little bit larger or denser, it would not have been thousands of injuries from the blast wave. It could have been thousands of deaths. And the thing is we had no idea that object even existed at all. You want to know why? Because we were too distracted by this other object passing by us really closely as well. Everybody is focusing on that one. And as it goes by us, also in boosh, we get hit from behind by that thing. Highly recommend looking that up. Russian meteor impact. But yeah, that's what I got to say about that. Let's come back down in here now. Do you think we live in a virtual reality? I don't know. This is how I would say that makes sense if it is in fact a virtual reality. Okay. I guess in a way you're saying, is this a simulation? Okay. Imagine a maze, like a corn maze, right? And you have to solve the maze. Well, you can only do one path at a time. So you're going to go through the maze until you finally come out with the solution. And who knows how long that can take. Let's say you take that same maze and plug it into a computer, right? That computer can do that way faster than you can, like the speed of light kind of fast type thing. Well, I don't know about the speed of light, but super freaking fast. Anyway, but it can still only do one path at a time. It just does it super fast, okay? Then you have a quantum computer where it takes that maze and it does all of the possible paths all at the same time, coming out with the solution that much faster. Okay, so think of it like there's multiple existences happening within inside the maze. So when it comes to the simulation theory, I think the only way it would make sense is if it's like kind of like a quantum computer, to where there are an endless amount of possibilities and equations of your existence happening right now. Let me explain like this. You take two mirrors, okay, huge mirrors, and you make them face one another. And you see the hallway of mirrors, okay? Endless mirrors. And there's a horizon. It dips on past to where you can't see at a certain point. Well, let's imagine all the mirrors you can see, it all just looks like the reality you're existing in right now. Everything is perfectly matched. Everything just looks like a mirror, okay? Imagine you had the ability to traverse that hallway of mirrors to where you could then go past that event horizon and see what's in the mirrors down there. And you might just get to a mirror to where you're wearing a different shirt, or you have a different hairstyle, or you're a completely different human being, or you're a different age, or you just don't even exist at all. Because there are an infinite amount of possibilities of your existence all happening at the same time. So what if when you die, that's just that one reality of your existence ending, but in that reality right there next to you, you just wake up like nothing happened. I don't know. It's crazy to think about. I wrote this thing a while ago. It's like kind of like a poem. I don't know if it's like a poem. The end of it is a poem, but it goes, let me give you a visualization of a parallel universe. It is something you have passed by and have seen every day without thought. A universe and dimension so perfectly matched to our own, every motion reflects ours as a mirror's sight. The only difference, seen by both, is that his is his left, as mine is my right. That's how I would say that. Now, since we're into kind of stick with that, the multiverse, that would also, in my opinion, mean that the multiverse theory exists, because there's endless universes of your existence, okay? But consider this. Now, again, I'm not an expert on any of this, guys. I'm just a dude. I'm just a dude just like you who has a hobby about learning stuff that I find interesting. But, okay, imagine a black hole. And I'm not saying I have a full understanding of what a black hole is or how it's going on, but this is kind of how it makes sense in my mind, okay? So you have the singularity right here, and then you have the event horizon right here, okay? So let's imagine you're standing right here in the middle between the singularity and the event horizon right here, okay? Staring into the singularity. Okay, all of the space in front of you is moving faster than the space you're standing on. And the space in front of that space is moving faster than that space, and so on and so forth. So the space in front of you from here is moving away from you and accelerating away from you. You turn around, you look at the event horizon back this way. The space you're standing on is moving faster than the space you're staring at, so on and so forth. So as you look away, it's accelerating away from you. So what do we see within the universe when we look out in all directions? But endless expansion and acceleration. So could it not be that our universe is itself a black hole existing within another universe, and every black hole within our universe is itself another universe? I don't know. Can't say so. I have no idea. All right, I'm going back down in here. Where's that comment I was at before? Okay, here we go. So do you think there is a cache or untouched area somewhere that the ancient... So do you think there is a cache or untouched area somewhere that has ancient technology we haven't found? Snake Pleistocene. I think that's how you say that. I think it's highly likely. Let me explain like this, okay? We had no idea there were millions of people living in the we had no idea there were millions of people living in the Amazon, or where the Amazon jungle is now, only a few thousand years ago. Using LiDAR technology, we can remove all of the forest out of the way. Just underneath all of the brush and leaves and vines is a civilization that used to be there. Millions of people used to live in these places. And you can't tell it's there. The jungle is so thick, it's just completely gone. Who knows what could just be under the jungle in the Amazon from our ancient past? In the Emerald Tablets, which a lot of people are really skeptical about whether or not the Emerald Tablets have, any validity to them, but they talk about, if the translation is correct, of course, that talks about the Sphinx and having chambers underneath the Sphinx with some kind of technology. I don't know the kind of technology. Many different translations. One of the translations I saw says, "Find my spaceship." Now, obviously, that's kind of a little bit far out there, but I mean, who's to say? And the thing is what if we've already found something? How would you or I know about it? If someone in Egypt did an archaeological dig underneath the Sphinx, let's say, and they straight up found something technological that just baffled them, who's to say that the powers that be would let you or I know about it at all? Especially if it would be so disruptive to our current way of thinking for the past how long? I don't know. I guess you can say I don't have enough trust in the people that are in control of everything. I really don't think that they have our interests in mind. But it doesn't necessarily always have to be malice and like this evil, vindictive dude be like, no, I'm not going to. What if it's just for fear? What if they are afraid of the consequences of how we would react? Because that's another possibility. What if it was so world-altering crazy what they did find, if they found it, that it would literally make society panic and crumble away? Well, I think they could say that back in like the 1940s, when you had people with this very short view of what existence is, from my opinion. I think people are way more open now to actually have the truth, whatever it is. I sure as hell would love to know what the truth is. Let's come back down in here. Are the pyramids an electrical machine? I've seen a video on Tesla and the pyramids being connected. It's a possibility, if not likely, in my opinion. It would make sense that these things, and this is how. Now, again, I don't know about this, but Christopher Dunn has a book called Power Plant Egypt, and he goes over the possibility of the pyramid being a generator in that book. And I don't remember if this was from him, but one of the ideas that I heard is the way the chambers are set up. Okay. Oh, hold on. Let me pick this up off the ground. I don't want that to be on the ground. Coming into the Great Pyramid, going down into the subterranean chamber, there's a well that goes down into a water duct, a dried up water duct where water used to be going through these chambers underground. Okay. Then you come back up into the Queen's Chamber and the Grand Gallery and the King's Chamber. And the way all this is set up to where the rushing water going through those chambers would act as a whistle. And imagine like the power of water. Water is pretty crazy when it's moving fast. Okay. But it could whistle so loud and reverberate through the whole structure so intensely, like with such a, what's the word I'm looking for? It would be intense. Let's just put it that way. I can't think of the word I'm trying to think of right now. To where it is possible, hypothetically possible, that it could vibrate and possibly break the hydrogen-oxygen bonds of the water molecules in the air. And if that were to happen, the amount of energy released to that would be substantial. I'm not saying that's the case at all, okay? It's an idea. It's an idea that's out there on a possibility. I mean, I can only imagine, like, what if, let's go crazy. What if, like, we figured out how to, like break away and, like, cause the water to rush through underneath the pyramid again, and all of a sudden you just see sparks coming out the top of the pyramid? Oh, that would be crazy. That would be nuts. But Tesla built his Tesla Tower on top of a water duct, just like the Great Pyramid is. And the government stole all his stuff when he died. So we'll never know, unfortunately. Come back down in here. Beard plays. Science says the universe is flat. But what if it was flat? A couple things would be different. It's been a while since I looked it up. The universe is flat. Yeah. Basically, if the universe wasn't flat, you could technically loop all the way around and come back to the same spot, kind of like on the planet. Does it make sense? But since the universe is flat, if you go one direction, you will never come back this way. It's not like Smash Bros. Or no, not Smash Bros. Like Pac-Man, where you go out this wall and you come back in this way. It's not how it works at all. Zane and Domzun, do you watch The Curse of Oak Island? If you do, what are your thoughts? I have not watched The Curse of Oak Island. Not gonna lie, guys, I don't watch a whole lot of TV. Okay, I'm not a big fan of the way they dramatize a lot of the stuff on TV. It feels like a gimmick a lot. I just really want the information, and that's it. And that's why I really love, like, classroom lectures, like a dude standing up there with quite literally a chalkboard, giving you all the information and a presentation and, like, a PowerPoint talking about ancient history. That's my bread and butter. And I can give you a whole list of stuff to listen to on that. But when it comes to, like, watching TV shows and documentaries, not my bread and butter. Let's just put it that way. But I do not know I know of Oak Island. I know, like, some of the things about it, but I don't know it as much as probably you do. I'm not gonna lie. If you've watched the TV show, because I have not. Down here, 64 people. Look at brown cow. Look up brown cows make chocolate milk. I don't think they do. Chocolate milk comes from sugary goodness, man. And man, I love me some chocolate milk. I'm going to jump off YouTube. Goodbye, bro. All right, bye, bro. You're probably already gone by now. Talking about your sister had a professor who done ayahuasca. She was a DMT spirit molecule. She was in the DMT spirit molecule documentary. No, wait. All right, hold on. I got to read all this now. All right, Erin Colony. My sister went to Albany. I think that's how you say it. Albany College of Pharmacy, and she had a professor that was an whatever that word is, who did ayahuasca. IDK, how to spell that. Yeah, I suck at spelling too, bro. She was in the DMT spirit molecule documentary that was used on Netflix. That is dope, sir. That is pretty freaking cool. She said she saw herself as a flower in a garden, and there was a goddess woman going around watering all the plants. She wanted her to come and water, and eventually she made her way around to all the plants, watering each one. That's weird. That's weird. That's crazy, bro. That's nuts. Yeah, when it comes to, like, now we're back on DMT real quick. I find it really douchey and stupid that the government is allowed to tell you what you can and can't do with your body. When it comes to, like, your body, not someone else's body, okay? If you want to smoke something or, drink something, I find that to be, especially when it's something that is natural, first of all, and humans have been doing for thousands of years. Now, I'm not saying just go out and do any drug you want, guys, okay? Obviously, there are drugs that are super bad for you and will 100% ruin your life. Heroin, cocaine, okay? You know the list of the really bad ones that you shouldn't do, okay? Do I think you should go to jail and have your life completely ruined because you have a personal problem? No. No, I don't. I think that's a very caveman way of thinking about things, very tyrannical government kind of stuff. And then if you go and look into the history on how marijuana became illegal, it will make your head spin. It is so mind-numbingly stupid that was able to get through to where it ruined millions of lives because one man was greedy. I highly recommend looking into the history of marijuana, guys. And so now the government has been using this as a stick to beat whoever they wanted into submission because they want to enjoy this substance just like somebody would do with a glass of alcohol. But that's totally fine. You can totally do that and possibly kill yourself or someone else by doing that. But marijuana, that literally hasn't killed anyone in the entirety of history, you're not allowed to do that. Yeah, I think these people in control need to step down. I think a lot of them need to get out of the way for the new generation to take place and actually fix the problems. But I hope they don't. Oh man, it's not looking pretty. Let's just put it that way. Especially with how crazy people are these days. Okay, I'm gonna rail on them all day. Liberal snowflakes, you guys are a major league problem. Okay, you guys don't know how to think for yourselves. Okay, all you do is take everything you hear from the social media and the media sources, and you take it all as fact, and you don't actually think for yourself. And because of that, it's gonna be really bad when all these millennials have been coming out of college and they're getting ready to go into all of these political positions now. Think of Ocasio-Cortez, guys. Think of like hundreds of her all over the place. Yeah, it's going to suck. Anyway, let's not get political. I shouldn't get political on here. I'm sorry. Totally agree. But how Aaron Colony. Totally agree. But how drugs are not treated, how they should be not a crime offense. No. Yeah, I mean, the fact that you can literally have your life completely ruined because you had a little baggie of something on you. Because here's the thing. We know for a fact sending that person to jail, putting them into the system, giving them a felony on their record, literally doesn't help them whatsoever. They won't get a job coming out of the other end. All they're going to do is they're going to go to prison and become a criminal in prison. And that's all they would be able to do. All they can go back to is the street life when they finally get out because they're not allowed to have another job because that guy over there said you can't have one. Yeah, I think it's a whole bunch of BS. It drives me nuts that we've been doing this for. Brandon Morton, I'm sorry, bro. Didn't mean to talk politics. It just sometimes happens. Politics does suck. I'll come back up here a little bit. Okay, so if it's breaking the bonds, how would they be capturing that energy? Granite, limestone, and basalt. I want to say it's basalt, I'm not positive. Have very, very curious electromagnetic properties to where the granite is not a very good insulator, but limestone is. And the granite is on the internal structures of the Great Pyramid. So the granite, theoretically, could contain the electricity and energy being produced. And then the limestone outer casing stones would be able to keep it inside that chamber, basically. And with the way the King's Chamber, the way the granite slabs, they call them the relieving stones, but they don't relieve any weight at all. The way they are spaced out could possibly amplify that energy straight out through the top and possibly even transmit the electricity wirelessly to the obelisks all around Egypt. No idea, but hey, it's crazy to think about. Come back down here. Do you think there is an afterlife? I don't know if there is one. I think for someone to say there is not one is a very ignorant statement. How do you know? You don't know. I mean, what if there is one? And well, that's just it. Nobody knows. And you're not going to know until you close your eyes for that last time here in this existence. It's really hard to say, but you hear these stories of people with near-death experiences talking about how, yeah, there is like, I don't remember what it was, is what they say. I don't remember seeing anything, but they remember being conscious on the other side. And on the other side is way better than over here, apparently, from a lot of people. Joe Rogan had this dude on there talking about it. His mom, how she like died and she came back and she said it was just the greatest thing ever. I don't know. But I mean, when it comes to like afterlife and like all these ancient myths and religions, who is to say that there isn't some kind of afterlife that the ancients knew about and they're trying to let you know about it? But from them telling that story, explaining what the afterlife is to get to you now, all of that warping of time has turned it into this big, exaggerated, supernatural thing. What if it's just as simple as you moving to the next parallel universe right next to you, and you had no idea you were existing in this one at all? I've no idea. I'm spitballing here right now, but it is crazy to think about. What do you think about Freemasonry? It's an organization that I don't know a whole lot about. I know Randall Carlson is a Freemason. They are really into sacred geometry and symbols within ancient art and whatnot. Like everything about what they wear and like the symbols and like the pendants they have. There's all sorts of symbolism within the Freemasons and whatnot, like with the compass and all that kind of stuff. Look up anything with the art on the Freemasons, and it's just kind of like, all right, what? This is trying to portray information to you. Don't know what it is. I'm not a Freemason, and I don't know a whole lot about them, but it's very interesting. And they are like one of those like secretive societies where if you're not part of the Freemasons, you're not allowed to know what's going on. I'm like, okay, fair enough. Your brain releases DMT naturally when you die, so theoretically, tripping on DMT will show you what death is like. Well, possibly. We don't officially know that. Because the thing is, like, people who have taken DMT don't exactly have the same experiences people who have had near-death experiences have. Okay? Because I do believe those to be two completely separate things. I think DMT is the drug that eases your mind into the next realm or into the non-existent plane you're getting ready to go to. It's a way of letting your mind calm itself down, because when you die, I can only imagine how stressful that is for your brain. Bearded monster insulating from the outside, really not sure what. Okay, I'm so fuzzy on the pyramids transmitting energy to the obelisks. AKA not seeing anything about it. I can see how the pyramids creating electrical charges inside while. Dude, Randall Carlson had a video about conveyance of information through buildings that the Freemasons have made on YouTube channel too. Yeah, I mean, Randall Carlson talks about sacred geometry a lot. Like, I mean, and it gets complicated, but it's really, really good stuff. Talk about a wormhole. Honestly, bro, I don't know a whole lot about a wormhole and how that exactly works. So I can't exactly talk about it. Apparently, it's one way to get from here to the other, where like the fabric of space is like bending over and like touching itself or something like that. I don't know. Talk about your masks. Okay, we're gonna talk about the masks. Well, guys, I've been making masks for a while now. This is one of them. How I do this is I cast my face. You know, like if you've broken your arm before, you have like the hard cast that they put your arm in. I cast my face with that, and then I take that and I cut it down, I shape it, and then I build onto that with clay, and then I sand that down and build more, sand it down, build more, and then once I get it to where I like it, I resin the whole thing, giving it a really hard, casing on it, and then I paint it and make it look all nice and dope looking. So this one is based off of the Punisher. That's what that one's supposed to be. This one is an original Star Wars character that I created, and this is where I actually got the name Rivas Orion from. Is this guy? This is Sith Rivas. Yeah. So build masks. I've got quite a few of them I'm working on. Let me show you these ones. Let me go grab it real quick. Hold on. Now, these are not done yet. I'm still working on these two, and I've been putting it off for too long now. I really need to get back to it. This one, no, it's white, so you can barely see it, but I got to make like the slits for the mouth and like fix the nose and whatnot in that one. But this one is for my brother, and I haven't finished it yet. Oh, wait, I forgot the other part of it. Hold on. I got to go grab something. Hold on, give me a second. Now, this one, I've got to figure out how to fix this one because this one kind of got all screwed up. But, okay, this is going to be the black mask from like the dark, Arkham Asylum, I think is what it was, like the Batman games, whatever. This is the black mask. You can see that, dude. Okay, but what's cool about this one, and this didn't work out like I was expecting it, you can see how it's like shaped out here in the back on the sides. You have the back piece that's supposed to close this off, right? And I was going to line the whole edge of this with magnets on either side of this, so this would snap together like that on your head. But the seams did not line up at all like I wanted them to, so I got to figure out how to fix that. And it's just I got to get back to it. It's going to take a while though. But yeah, those are the masks I've been working on. Let me put this back real quick. Give me a second. Come back in here. But yeah, I've been doing like those kind of masks for a while now, and I don't have them here, but I also do burlap masks where, you know, it looks like a scare. Actually, oh, do I have one? No, I don't have one here. It's all up at the house. Well, I'll be sure to have those next time, but I also do burlap masks like scarecrows, and those are pretty freaking cool. Dude, those masks are sick. Do you cosplay? I do not. I'm sorry. The only thing I can speculate is the spew into a parallel universe. Dude, those Thank you guys for the cool mask stuff. Yeah, they take forever to build too, by the way. Like it takes a while. It's all literally handmade. Like every bit of this is shaped and molded. Now these are like parts of like this magic kit I had. I don't remember where these were exactly from. And these I just had plexiglass that I cut into shape and made this look a vent. But everything else is literally just by hand and rubbing with your thumbs and, you know, sanding with sandpaper to get down the shape that you want. They are not Beard Monster. They are not 3D printed. It is all handmade with clay. So, do you think it is possible to blip into another dimension for a moment? I don't know. I want to say no. I have no idea. I mean, man, they are being loud up there. Figuring out what dimension it is you're going to be blipping into, I think, is a major problem. How do you know you're going to be going anywhere that you're going to be able to exist in? Then you definitely wouldn't be able to blip and come back. It'd be pretty bad. If you could visit any ancient site, where would you go? The Great Pyramid in Egypt. That would be dope. Like doing a video at the Great Pyramid of Egypt. Because here's the thing. I think the Great Pyramid of Egypt is the most important structure on this planet. I think whatever is encoded into that structure is extremely important for the progression of our species forward. And there have not been enough studies done in that structure. Thankfully, they have started it back up again, and they're doing resonance and like sound testing on the inside of it. But just by measuring the pyramid itself and the rooms inside of the pyramid, there's a lot of crazy fishy stuff with mathematics going on in that structure that I think is substantial and important. I'm probably going to be getting off here soon, guys. Let's go for like a little bit longer to kind of round this off. Let's do another 20 minutes, okay? But then I'm going to head out of here. Dude, I would love to sit on the pyramid and rewind time, record it. Oh, yeah, like sitting on the pyramid and like going back in time. Yeah, that'd be definitely cool. That'd be cool. Deja vu is when the creator changes something. Matrix, bro. Or what if deja vu is just you remembering the previous existence of you doing that exact same thing? I don't know. Maybe every time you wake up, you restart like Groundhog Day until you get it right. I don't know. Do you travel and do you plan on visiting sites such as the Great Pyramid? I would love to travel. I have never been out of the United States before. I've been around the United States before, but as for leaving the United States, I have not. That would be super dope, though. I would love to. But that's going to take a lot of money, and I'm going to need the planet to stop being on fire in order for me to do that. So, why do you suppose hieroglyphics have bird people on them? It's a good question. Why are all these gods portrayed as being not human, but human at the same time, right? Well, I mean, even it's not just in the hieroglyphs in Egypt, though. I mean, the ancient Sumerians, I'll forget the name of the god, but they have a god that has a bird head. There's many gods that have bird heads in a lot of ancient religions. Maybe it's because obviously this is all hypothetical right now. Maybe it's because they were visited by something from space that was humanoid, but was just a little weird. Like almost, they had like this bird look to them. And so the only way to portray to somebody that this was a humanoid being, but it was different, is to put a bird head on it. I have no idea. You also got people in Mesopotamia they're wearing like large fish. They have like these fish heads, and they have a human face, and it's a fish head and these scales. It's really weird. I don't know. It is pretty weird, like the depictions of deities and whatnot. When will you go live again? Oh, thank you for bringing that up. So this is what I want to try to do. I want to try to go live every Sunday at 9 o'clock. Can't be positive I'm going to be able to do it every single time, but I will strive every Sunday to be going live at 9 o'clock when we come on here and talk about some stuff. And my goal is to actually have, what I want to do is figure out how to share my screen with you guys, because apparently there's some ways to do that. I have to use another program, though, in order to do that. But actually, like, go through and do research with you guys. I think that would be kind of cool, and have like a list of things that I would like to show you guys, and we could talk about. But yeah, I'm going to be going. I will plan to go live again next Sunday at 9 o'clock. So be here for that, and I will announce it on TikTok and all that kind of stuff as well. So yeah, that's going to happen. I've seen some really unexplained things that I just don't think come from our dimensional plane. I think we are so weak spot. I think there are weak spots in places. Really, weak spots is like where you can like punch through another dimension. I mean, what about that story? Ah, man, I forget the name of the dude. This Wisconsin man or something like that, where this dude who was from this place that doesn't exist just showed up in this airport one day. And like they took him and they put him in this room, and they're trying to figure out where this guy's from. He's like telling them of this place that doesn't exist on the map. And then they go back in the room and he's no longer there anymore. Is that real? Like, I mean, it's weird. I don't know. Just like mystery dude. PM or AM? It's going to be PM Eastern Standard Time. Okay, so basically the same time we started tonight. It's 10:30. It's 10:43 right now. I'm on the East Coast of the United States. 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time every Sunday is what I'm going to strive for doing live streams. Your stream labs is one of the best. You talking about this live stream right now is one of the best? If that's what you're saying, thank you. It would make sense. Beard Monster again. It would make sense to me that ancient bird people are humans that have symbols that are associated with them. Think like modern organization or company, like a bird or a dog. I mean, yeah. I mean, what is a logo? It's like you're talking about this specific person. What easier way to say that that's this individual than by making them a very unique shape, like a bird or like a crocodile? That's this guy, and it's an easy way to represent that is that being. And that's a very valid explanation. I think so. Yeah. Hit me up if you've got questions. What are you talking about? OBS or slobs? What are you talking about, bro? I don't even know what you're talking about. I'll be here on Sundays as much as I can to stream. Okay. Sounds good. And they conflict the two together and make them into one entity. Yeah. You need to see Michael Tellinger presentation. It lasts 2 hours. He will explain it with detail. How do Egyptians use sound and resonance, vibration, and more? All right, I'm just gonna copy your comment, sir. See what you know, what you're talking about. Whoever that guy is, Michael Tellinger. All right, Manfred, Georgia. Set a reminder for me, or else I'll forget. I will be reminding everybody on TikTok every time I'm gonna do a live stream. I'm gonna be like, yo, live stream, tonight at 9 o'clock, or live stream Sunday. Probably do it that way. Exactly like that. If you pay attention to what the bird person is holding or the dog person is holding, it looks like a tuning fork. It seems that they are implying frequency. Very possible. Very possible. All right. With the frequency being pitch, if that's... Mm-hmm. I'm just thinking right now. Hold on, give me a second. You're talking about the Ankh? Is that what you're talking about? I mean, the Ankh kind of does look like a tuning fork. I can understand how you would say it, why you would think that. No, the staff. Which staff, man? There's a lot of stuff. You talking about the curved staffs, like when they're holding them like across like this? Okay. What's the bags that they depict being held? That's a good question, man. A lot of people want to know the answer to that question. What do I think it could be? I don't necessarily... If someone's coming to you, like they're coming to you and they have a bag, they're bringing you something, right? Or bringing something with them. So what if the bag is an analogy or a visual symbol for bringing knowledge? Because that's what these gods did. Like if you go back and look at the ancient Sumerian gods and how they came to in the stories, they showed people how to farm. They brought the plow. They showed them how to build. They brought them knowledge. And how do I kind of make this make sense is, let's imagine an island, okay? You have an island that's actually the top of this massive volcano underwater, okay? And 100,000 people in the city is living on top of this island. And you have a yacht, huge yacht. It can hold 1,000 people on it, okay? And you have knowledge that the whole volcano is going to blow off the top of this thing and just destroy everything. So you take your yacht and you take whoever you trust most, probably a lot of family members and friends, and a whole bunch of supplies, and you literally bail. You bail that island and you go to that island way, 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 way over there, several, months, maybe even years away. Okay. That island goes off, boosh, explodes. Okay. You're over there now. Okay. You know it's probably gone, but you don't officially know. And you create a new civilization on this island. You eventually build the capability of going back to that original island. And you show back up and everything's just basically gone. But there's survivors there. And you're like, holy cow, wow. So you find the survivors and then you go back to your island and you go, bro, there's survivors there. We got to help them. So you go back and you keep going back and forth to rebuild civilization over here. You can't stay over there. You have your family and everyone else over there, on the other island. So you keep going back and forth until you build enough infrastructure to where you can maybe stay there one day. And this idea of gods coming out of the sky could be the recreation of civilization after the cataclysmic event of 12,000 years ago. I don't know. Possibility. Crazy. Crazy to think about. All right, guys, we got 11 more minutes, and then I'm going to get out of here. That's presentation will blow your mind. Trust me. I've been looking forward to some. Trust me, I've been looking for someone to have the same interest in pyramids and other unanswered questions. Well, welcome to the party, bro. You and me both. I, however, do believe, though, that we're going to be seeing a shift in the way people think coming up here soon, guys. I think, especially with how massive my TikTok has become within just the past month, people are itching to think about history. It's just nobody could fit that first puzzle piece together to have it all begin to make sense. And I think now that there are so many of us out there interested in this topic, I think we could possibly piece this puzzle back together way faster than we previously were before. What do you think the snakes represent? Yes, there's a lot of stuff with snakes in ancient times, like the Egyptians having the snake over the head, or you have like the headdress of the snakes in the Indian culture. Yeah, snake is a thing. It's hard to say. It's really hard to say. Or you have like the serpents in the sky and like Asian stuff. Well, every time a serpent shows up in a lot of these myths, it's never a good thing. It's always like some kind of destruction. And there are some things to suggest that maybe this depiction of snakes and flowing and flying through the sky could be cosmic impacts. The same thing goes for wolves and dogs. Anytime you see a dog or like a wolf or like a fox being portrayed, it symbolizes a comet, or specifically a dog symbolizes a comet. And Göbekli Tepe, the stones in Göbekli Tepe, I forget which pillar it was, but it has this belt going around it and this fox pelt in front of it, because the stones in Göbekli Tepe are supposed to represent humans. That's why they have the hands wrapping around the bellies, okay, and the heads are these T-shapes. And they wear belts, or some of them wear belts. And the idea is that the fox represents a comet, or the destruction of a comet. What was the name? Oh my goodness! In Norse mythology, there's a wolf that actually kills the gods of the previous world in their mythology, and the wolf could be a comet. It talks about how its mouth, struck down and just caused devastation on Earth, killing the gods. There's a lot of, and that's just it with these myths, guys. It's not made up. In a way, yeah, it's kind of made up. But deep within the myth, there is an encoded truth that you have to figure out how to decipher the code to understand what they were trying to tell you long ago. And the myths were the only way to get primitive-minded people to remember the information, is to dumb it down in the simplest way, the most simple way, but make it complicated enough to retain the information of before. That's just my opinion on how that works out. I'm going to come back down in here. You think these beings are on other islands built on Mars? Well, if you're talking about the previous civilization that could have existed before the Cataclysm, I feel like the first place to go that would probably be the safest place to go immediately would be the moon. I feel like that'd be a really good lifeboat to jump onto and just kind of sit there and go, all right, what are we supposed to do now? Maybe they did go to Mars, but I mean, Mars is pretty screwed up right now. I mean, there's no atmosphere hardly at all on Mars. Very hostile environment. And the thing is, though, is like there's a lot of weird shapes on Mars. People say it's all natural formations, but I mean, people say rocks that look like polygonal stone masonry in New Zealand is just natural formations. I look this up. Look up like New Zealand wall. In fact, I can't remember the freaking name of it right now, but there's this super ancient wall in New Zealand. They say is like 330,000 years old. That looks like polygonal stone masonry, like the same what we see in Egypt, the same in what we see in South America, where you have these stones that fit perfect to one another, and they're just stacked, and they have these really like hard angles on them. Okay, well, apparently, according to these experts, it's just natural stone. Okay, well, I've never seen natural stone do that before, But there's a lot of crazy stuff looking on Mars. I mean, there. If you look at some formations, like some of the mountains next to the face on Mars, it does look like pyramids. I'm not gonna lie, guys. Fawful Soul, how do you feel about hundreds of people? Have you heard? How do you feel about hundreds of people have heard your message or observations? How do I feel about so many people listening to me talk? It's kind of crazy to think, I'm not going to lie. I mean, I got family members that are like, dude, you're famous now. I'm like, I don't feel famous. I mean, I guess, 300,000 followers on TikTok is apparently really substantial. But right now, still being in lockdown, just being up at my parents' house, nothing really different. It doesn't really feel any different yet. I haven't had anybody come up to me and be like, dude, you're Phantom Universe yet. That hasn't happened yet. That would be a weird day if that finally decides to happen, whenever that decides to happen. If you had to pick 5 places to travel to relate your studies of true ancient history, where would you want to visit? Egypt. Let me think. If we're talking about like structures, like the most important structures to go to start studying, Egypt, Cusco in South America, basically like Cusco, Sacsayhuaman, Patatori, I think that's how you say it, Patatori, Easter Island. So Egypt, Cusco. We'll just say Cusco in a whole for South America. Easter Island. I would love to go to Angkor Wat. Angkor Wat is such a beautiful, beautiful place. Like, oh, that temple is remarkable. Preveher has some crazy architecture. Like they have these archways. Like there's this hallway, and it's like this rounded archway like this. You have these stones on the sides, and towards the top they start to curve, and then the top stone is like this crazy curved stone going down this archway. Oh man, that'd be amazing to see and actually touch the stone. So that would be my 5: Egypt, Cusco, and all those places in South America, Easter Island, Angkor Wat, and Preveher. And all those structures are on the Great Line, which is why they're important, in my opinion. Charismatic. You're pretty charismatic. Well, okay, thank you. It would take a nuke every 20 seconds for a year to do that. What are you talking about? 20 nukes every 20 seconds. A nuke every 20 seconds? I don't know what you're talking about. Where are you getting this from? Beard Plays? Talking about stuff up here? Odin promised to get rid of the ice giants. Oh, that reminds me. So I read this thing. I need to find it again. But it's this dude who was in the 1800s. He went to this last tribe of like Pawnee Indians that were here in the States to get their story. He wrote down this dude's story, and this dude was talking about giants and these huge giants that were so cocky, and they thought they were so strong and so big that the god Ramawa, I think was his name, caused this massive flood to kill them all. And it's like, okay, this dude, Native Americans with flood myths. It's amazing. And then there's other ones to where they talk about how objects came out of the sky and killed all the giants as well. Carolina Bays, maybe? I don't know. I love your content. I've got to bail. Thank you, sir. You have a good night. I'm gonna have to bail here soon. So let's get 2 more good questions in here. Okay. Let's see. You're thinking yes, you're thinking of the Kamanawa. I can't even. Kamawana, I think is how you say that. Yes, that wall in New Zealand. That's the one I'm talking about. They say that's just natural. Okay. And there's also polygonal stone masonry on Australia. Look up the Gympie Pyramid. This is how you spell it. GYM Pi, Gimpy Pyramid. Okay, this is a rumor. Okay, this is a folklore tale of a pyramid existing in Australia. Well, the reason for this is because there is it's called the Gympie Church. And the people who made the church took the stone from far away to build this wall for this church. And the wall they built is polygonal stone masonry. And the stories of the descendants and the children who came afterwards talk about how they said the people who built the wall didn't carve the stone. They dismantled a wall from the Gympie Pyramid and brought the stone over there to actually build the wall at this church. If that's the case, that is phenomenal. That's phenomenal. Let's do one more. It's 11 p.m. Time to get off, fandom. Yeah, I'm aware, bro. I'm aware. I'm going to do one more. Is the Egyptian government hiding something? They seem like they are giving much weak answers. Yes. Long story short, I think they have found something and for some reason, they don't want to give it out. And the amount of corruption involved with the Egyptian government is unfortunate. On that note, guys, I appreciate every single one of you following me and giving me so much support. Unfortunately, I cannot live stream on TikTok because TikTok doesn't like freedom. They don't like guns because they don't want people flashing guns. I understand that, but it was an accident, blah, blah. Maybe one day they'll eventually let me come back and do some live streams on TikTok, but I don't expect them to do because they're communist freaking Chinese people. But anyway, so appreciate you guys. Follow me. And again, we're going to do next Sunday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay. That's when I'll do the next live stream. And I will see you guys later. Bye.